All right, we're going to give everyone a few more minutes to log on here. If you're just joining us, I ask that we take a few minutes to update our names, our participant names, and we'll give a few more minutes to have others join us. Thank you. All right, I think we'll get started at around 6:03. Okay, good evening, everyone. I think we'll go ahead and get started. I want to provide a warm welcome to our inaugural virtual community meeting on the future development of our Otay Valley Active Recreation Area Park project. Thanks again for joining us tonight. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. My name is Camille Wildberger, and I'm the Park Project Manager with the County of San Diego's Department of Parks and Recreation, and will be leading this presentation. Throughout the workshop, I do encourage active participation and engagement. Please understand your input is crucial in shaping the future of our park development. And we want everyone to know that this park has been a long time coming, and the team involved is very excited. We're also pleased to offer Spanish translation services for this workshop. If you require translation assistance, please click on the interpretation icon located at the bottom of your screen. Our interpreter will be available to assist you throughout the session. Next slide, please. The chat function has been disabled for this meeting. Instead, we will be utilizing the Q&A pane for any questions you may have throughout the session. The Q&A pane provides a structured platform for addressing questions and ensures that all inquiries are addressed efficiently. Please feel free to submit your questions by clicking the Q&A icon, and your team will do our best to provide comprehensive responses. Next slide, please. For those joining us on a mobile device, please note the Q&A icon will be located at the bottom of your screen. Next slide, please. Before we dive in, I'd like to set the stage for this public meeting. The objective of this meeting is the initiation of the county's Department of Parks and Recreation's commitment to develop the OVRP Recreation Area 3 as an active recreation park. Today, we are informing, consulting the public, community, and stakeholders by seeking input and feedback on preferred amenities. To do this, we need to first define active and passive recreation. Active recreation involves physical engagement and participation in sports or structured activities, while passive recreation involves leisure activities that emphasize relaxation and contemplation. Please know that safety, lighting, the unsheltered, and environmental concerns are key considerations throughout the planning and design process to ensure the creation of inclusive, sustainable, and secure public spaces that promote community well-being and engagement. Next slide, please. Here we have our meeting roadmap. I will be introducing our project team next. Then we'll start by exploring the site's history and giving an overview of our project goals. Then we'll discuss the current site conditions and conduct a live poll to prioritize amenities. Next, we'll share architectural concepts for the community building and gather your preferences on its uses. Finally, I'll outline the next steps for the project and open the floor for questions. Next slide, please. All right, now I'd like to take this time to introduce the dedicated county team and the Schmidt Design Group team who's been diligently working on this project. If you're part of the team, please wave your hand. I think some of us have our camera off, but it's myself. We have Annette, we have Charles, Juliet, and Jessica with the county. We also have JT, Jennifer, and Philip with Schmidt Design Group. Next slide, please. Additionally, we're partnering with HCW, CR Associates, Enterprise Engineering, and Nova Services who are working with us to enhance our efforts. Together, we're dedicated to ensuring the success of this project and creating a vibrant community space for the South Bay community. Next slide, please. Later in the meeting, we'll be conducting polls to gather your feedback. The survey will also be available online at both the stparks.org page and the Engagement HQ page at the QR code at the end of this presentation. The virtual poll in today's meeting is in English, however, Spanish option is available online. We will also make this presentation available online if you would like to participate in the survey at your own pace with the presentation on hand at a later time. To ensure everyone is familiar with the process, we'll start with this test poll. You should see the poll question appear on your screen shortly. Excellent. If you can please take a moment to answer the poll. All right, now let's take a look at the results. Excellent, looks like that's working. Thank you, Eric. Next slide, please. All right. Well, the Otay River Valley boasts a rich history dating back to 9500 BC. It's approximately 10,000 years ago when the Kumeyaay people inhabited the region. For generations, they thrived in the valley, utilizing its diverse ecosystems for sustenance and cultural practices. The river provided water for drinking, irrigation, and fishing, while the land offered abundant resources for food, medicine, and crafting. The sustainable lifestyle is reflected in their deep connection to the natural environment. The name Otay comes from the Kumeyaay word Otay, spelled O-T-A-I, which means brushy, place of reeds, and wide level knoll. In 1782, Juan Pantoja y Arigas's expedition charted San Diego Bay, naming the area Rancheria de la Punta after the Kumeyaay village. In 1834, Santiago Emilio Arguello purchased the Milijo Ranch, where he built a large adobe that served various purposes throughout history until its demolition during World War II. Fast forward to 1850, when San Diego County was established, followed by the creation of California as a state. The 1871 establishment of the La Punta Salt Works marked another milestone, while the late 19th century saw significant developments with the construction of the National City and Otay Railway in 1886. And the emergence of new towns like Otay during the boom of the 80s in 1887. This period witnessed the rise and fall of ventures such as the Otay Watch Factory, reflecting the dynamic history of the Otay River Valley. Next slide, please. In 1910, the Fenton Company initiated gravel and sand mining operations in the area, later acquired by the Hanson Sand and Gravel Company. Many ponds in the vicinity originated as old sand and gravel pits. The 1916 Great Flood in the valley was a catastrophic event triggered by the heavy rainfall and subsequent overflow of the Otay River. The torrential downpour overwhelmed the region's infrastructure, causing widespread flooding, destruction of property, and loss of life. The floodwaters breached the lower Otay Reservoir Dam, exacerbating the disaster and inundating surrounding areas with a mass surge of water. By 1951, the Montgomery Freeway was constructed and later became known as Interstate 5. In 1990, a significant milestone was reached when San Diego County and the cities of Chula Vista and San Diego collaborated to establish the multi-jurisdictional park known as Otay Valley Regional Park, or OVRP for short. Subsequently, in 1995, the OVRP Policy Committee directed the completion of a concept plan which serves as the foundation for future planning and development. This plan underwent updates in 1997, 2001, and 2016. By 2006, the county acquired much of the land that constitutes the Active Recreation Area 3 site. In 2008, member agencies of OVRP completed a Constraints and Opportunity Report for the site. Lastly, from 2011 to present day, the Terabella Nursery has been leasing the land. Next slide, please. In this section, we'll provide a comprehensive look at the key aspects of our park development initiative. We'll cover the background, location, and goals. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Oh, thank you. On the screen, we have the Otay Valley Regional Park concept. The planning area of OVRP is located at the southern portion of San Diego County, just 4 miles north of the international border. The regional park area extends about 11 miles from the southeastern edge of the San Diego Bay Salt Ponds through the river valley to the land surrounding both lower and upper Otay reservoirs. Currently, the only active recreation space is at the Otay Lakes on the opposite end of the valley from the bay. So here in this concept plan, we have several nodes that have been designated for recreational use, and today we're discussing Active Recreation Area 3, highlighted on the screen. Next slide, please. The Active Recreation Area Park project is approximately 45 acres and is located between Interstate 5 and Interstate 805, between Hollister Street and Bayer Boulevard. It sits south of the Otay River and north of Palm Avenue. You can see it here, circled and highlighted in blue. Next slide, please. We have a little bit of a lag.
Having connection issues. 1 second.
That's okay.
Would it be okay if I share?
Yeah, go for it. Thank you, Jen.
We need, I don't know, Emily, if you could stop sharing and I'll pick up where you froze.
Yes.
Thank
Stop
you.
sharing if I can.
It happens. Thank you, everyone, for your patience.
If you're listening, I don't know if you can help. I can't share screen until the previous screen is stopped.
And Emily, are you unable to? You're frozen.
There. Great. I'll be back on track in a second.
Awesome. Thank you, Jen. We are on slide 18. Yes, thank you. All right. The project site is situated in a valley surrounded by hills to the south and southeast. The landscape consists of a mix of undeveloped areas and a tree nursery with low-density residential neighborhoods to the south and an industrial plant to the north. Next slide, please. We will conduct a 3-round public outreach strategy for developing the park's concept plan. In round one, we'll host community meetings, including this virtual session, along with an in-person meeting later this month and a pop-up event in May, where we will be collecting the community's input and feedback on the preferred amenities for the park. In round two, we'll review 2 concept plans based on round one input and feedback in the community meeting and conduct a second pop-up event. Finally, in round three, we'll present the preferred concept plan at the final community meeting. Next slide, please. The goals of the 2016 OVRP concept plan for the entire regional park include providing a mix of active and passive recreation, protecting environmentally sensitive areas, protecting cultural and scenic resources, as well as encouraging compatible agricultural uses in the park. Next slide, please. Additionally, in our analysis of the Otay Mesa Nestor Community Plan from 2023, we've identified several key design and planning guidelines that align closely with our park development objectives, including providing public visual access to adjacent natural features, preserving and enhancing public views to San Diego Bay, OVRP, steep hillsides, and blending with the natural landscape, providing architectural interest and articulation, and lastly, providing community with materials to create a distinct park. And lastly, providing continuity with materials to create a distinct park identity. So now that we've provided you with a high-level understanding of the site's history, features, and goals, I'd like to ask through the poll on a scale from 1 to 5, how important is it to you that the new park reflect the site and regional history? We'll pause for a moment for everyone's response. All right, let's see the results. Great. Okay, moving on.
Thanks, Camille.
Yeah, I was about to say, so
Everybody?
thank you all for responding, and I'll pass the next slides to Jen. Thank you.
We might have a little lag on this. That's not, we're making it work. And good evening, everyone. I'm Jen Montgomery, a landscape architect with Schmidt Design Group, and we're thrilled to be working with the county and with this community. Appreciate you taking your personal time out of your evening to help shape this new park. This next section, we'd like to share the existing conditions, some of the key aspects of the existing site. So this map is a lot, and it's combining all the layers of different considerations that we talked about, opportunities and constraints on the site. We'll walk you through those one at a time. This first slide shows the site circulation, with the key aspect being that the site has the primary access likely off of the south side of the site on Palm Avenue, and also in green, opportunities for trail connections off-site on several points around the site, as well as opportunities for trail connections throughout the site itself. Here, the slide shows the hydrology, and there are some constraints associated with the site related to the fact that it is in a floodplain. So the area in blue is known to flood. The area with this kind of dark blue shape is also designated as a floodway that we anticipate would need to be protected in place. Many parks have successfully been designed in areas that flood, and those might include amenities such as natural open space, sports fields, parking lots, other things that we've seen successfully done. So there are definitely site conditions we want to be aware of as we're starting to think of amenities that will be included in the park. Here you can see the site analysis related to the biological features. The MHPA, or multiple habitat planning area, is shown in yellow. There's also a coastal zone on the west side of the site. We expect that any proposed improvements in these areas would be, or in the coastal area, would require additional permitting requirements, but just an understanding there on the west side. And then in pink, there's a sensitive area, sensitive habitat area, which we'll show you in the photographs. It's very mature habitat in that area. So we anticipate that the areas shown in pink would likely need to be protected in place. The site also has a lot of character and a lot of elevation change. So this slide shows the slopes. As you enter from Palm Avenue, there's an upper pad. And then from the upper pad, it slopes down about 40 feet to the lower terrace or the lower pad. There's a number of slopes that kind of meander through the site, but the overall results is that there's an upper pad on Palm Avenue, and then it slopes down to the north to a lower pad. So here you can see the elements overlaid on each other in an existing conditions map with opportunities and constraints. And what we noticed was that the key areas that are most applicable for park design in terms of opportunities are the ones that are left in white. So upper pad off Palm Avenue, and then there's some areas that are really less impacted at the lower, which are also shown in white. And our expectation is that the goal is to develop about 50% of the overall area of the park area of the park site. Next, I'll hand it over to Phil to share some site photos.
Thanks, Jen. Hi, everyone. I'm Phil Schweiger. So I'll walk you through some of the photos of the park site to show the current condition and the scale of the site. Each photo will have this key map on the top right, noting where we are on the site. Next slide. This is a view from the upper terrace looking east towards the San Miguel Mountain, which is on the left, Jamul Mountain in the middle, and Otay Mountain on the very right, just past the palm tree. Next, please. This is a view from the upper terrace looking northwest. The site is currently operated by a commercial nursery. Next, please. This is the upper terrace looking west. You can still see the nursery in the foreground. Next, please. This is a view from the entry drive looking towards that natural area Jen mentioned earlier. So this is looking east. And like she said, we anticipate that this area should be protected in place. This is the view from the on-site trail looking east. This is a portion of the site that is known to flood seasonally. Next, please. This is a view from that same trail looking north. Next, please. This is the trail connection to Fenton Pond, which is northeast of our site. And over there, there's a few trails leading towards the ranger station. And finally, this is a view from the lower terrace to the east with views of the mountains in the distance.
All right, thank you, Phil and Jen. As we move forward in the development process, we want you to know that it's essential for us to gather input and feedback on the amenities that you, the community, would most like to see in the park. Your preferences will guide us in creating a space that truly meets your needs and enhances your enjoyment of the park. We have some slides that we will ask you to be polling, so please take the time to share your thoughts and ideas as the polls pop up on your screen. Next slide, please. But before we do that, before we delve into gathering feedback on the preferred amenities, I'd like to take a moment to share with you the concept plan that was envisioned for this space nearly 15 years ago. At the time, feedback from the community prioritized several key features, including nature trails, the restoration of the valley's native habitat, mixed-use fields, a community center building, and other recreation activities like disc golf and a skate park. While this plan serves as a valuable foundation, we recognize that the community's needs and preferences may have evolved over time. So as we collect feedback, we'll consider how we can build upon this vision to create a space that reflects the current desires of the community. Next slide, please. Now let's take a closer look at the opportunities and constraints that will shape our park development once again. On this slide, you'll see a comprehensive overview of the factors previously shared during the existing conditions section. Thank you, Jen. These elements play a critical role in determining what amenities and features can be incorporated into the park and where, while also respecting and enhancing the natural environment. I urge everyone to keep these opportunities and constraints top of mind when responding to the polls. To the right on this screen, but to the right of the site, you'll be able to see an adult-sized soccer field and a 48-stall parking lot for scale and reference. I will pass the next slides to Schmidt Design Group. Thank you.
Thanks, Camille. Like Camille was saying, there's a range of amenities that could be included in the park. So we want to get your feedback. And these are broken down in different ways to try to solicit input, but we also have an opportunity just for general feedback through the chat or the Q&A feature. And then we have a few questions that are open-ended. So if we didn't hit on what you have in mind, these are, again, just to start getting your feedback, but we want to make sure we've covered everything and we'll have those opportunities at the end of the polling. So we've got a few. First, looking at the main overarching things that you find important for the park. Your poll should have popped up on your screen, and if you could select up to 4. So that might be things like playing sports, areas to gather with family, environmental education, places for habitat, or art that represents the history of the culture and the culture, places to walk, ride, rock, and roll and skate, excuse me, or indoor spaces, equestrian focused amenities. So please share your answers in the poll. And if you could bring up the results. Thank you, everyone. And if we're going too quick, there'll be an opportunity to share your feedback in the general at the end as well. Next, we wanted to look at amenities in terms of active and passive. So first, if you could share in terms of active recreation amenities, what would you like to see in the park? Please select your top 4. And this might include things like active or flexible open fields, playgrounds, active multi-use trails, hard courts, that could be basketball, tennis, pickleball, or a combination multi-use, splash pad, skate park, pump track, futsal arena, that's like a soccer area that's got sides on it, disc golf, or fitness equipment. We know there's a lot there, but I think we could go ahead and share the results. Thank you very much for your feedback. The next we'll look at amenities in terms of passive amenities. Are there passive recreation opportunities that you would like to see in the park? It might be picnic pavilions, shaded gathering, walking and hiking, community garden areas, educational garden, dog park or off-leash areas, amphitheater, accessible natural overlooks, or equestrian amenities. Go ahead and share the results. We have a few more poll questions just to kind of look at potential amenities, dig in a little deeper on different ways you could approach those. Here, we'd like to know if there are fields in the park. We'd like to ask, what type of fields would you like to see? Multi-use fields need to be a certain size, certain proportions for sports, whereas flexible open fields could be any size to no particular sports constraints. So please let us know if you have any preference in terms of what types of fields you'd like to see in the park. Multi-use, baseball, softball, flexible fields, or none. We can go ahead and share the results on that again. Thank you, everyone. Here, we want to give an opportunity for you to share if there were courts. What types of courts would you want to see in the park? This could be tennis, basketball, pickleball, multi-purpose, or none. And on those multi-purpose courts, there's an example in the image on the top right, where the court can be striped for multiple sports in one space. Great. I hope we're not rushing you all too much, but if you want to share the results, please, that'd be great. Thank you. Okay, last kind of characters there. There could be a number of different ways a playground could have style and character, and we would love your feedback on that. Whether the playground should have a modern style, a natural, nature-based play style, both, or none. No playground included. Please share what you feel fits best in this park. Thanks. You could go ahead and put the answers up. Thank you very much. And lastly, this opportunity here, and then we have again a survey at the end if you want to share additional comments. But if there are any amenities that we missed in terms of the park, we are going to talk about architecture separately. But in terms of amenities, please share that. Let us know if there are additional amenities that you'd like to see in the park. Great. Move on to the next one. Thank you, everyone. So we'll hand it over to Jim at Hannah Gabriel Watts.
Oh, Jim, you're muted.
Oh, thank you. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Jim Gabriel. I'm with HGW Architecture and excited to be part of this project as we start the revisioning for the new planning process for the OVRP. And what we're going to look at in the next series of slides is we want to talk about some different ideas for building use on the site. Some of you that have been involved with the project for a while know that in the previous development plan, a community center was envisioned. And we want to talk a bit about what are the types of uses that you all would prefer to see in a new community center for this site. So the column here on the left is outlining various uses that would be within a community center building, likely uses. And of course, there could be others that we don't have indicated yet that we would love to hear from you on. And then the column on the left represents additional building uses that might be within the park at large. And those are uses, like maybe a new ranger station, additional park restrooms, concession stand, interpretive center, disc golf kiosk, or even the continuation of a plant nursery, kind of community serving nursery operation. So we're going to follow the same path that we've been doing, where we're going to ask you all to provide your input through the poll here. And we'll start with your thoughts on what you would like to see in a community building. And we'd ask you to pick 4 of the uses here. And I see the poll is up. And there's community meeting rooms, catering kitchen, classroom spaces. We say creative studios. Those would be any, your dance or art or ceramics type studios in a community center, fitness spaces, game rooms, maybe a gymnasium, or technology-based rooms. So we'd like to have you all take a moment to vote on that. Provide your input. And then we can share the results. Terrific. Great information. Then the next slide, thank you. We want to go to the next, there we go. Were some other possibilities within the park, and we'd like you to provide your input on those facilities. We suggested things like a new ranger station at this end of the OVRP, additional restrooms, maybe an interpretive center for the natural setting, gallery spaces, that type of thing, concession stand, maybe cafe or food beverage operation, maybe a disc golf kiosk to support that if that were interested. And also we mentioned the plant nursery. We were thinking of something along the lines of like Nate's Garden over there in Center City, where it's more community serving type. So if there's thoughts on any of these uses, in addition to a community building, we'd like to get that input in your poll now. And the results, wonderful. Great, thank you very much. Now we want to flip over and talk a bit about, get some initial input from everyone on architectural character. And so what we've put together here will be a series of different thoughts about what you might do out here on the site. And at the end, we'll give you all a chance to give feedback on these. So the first idea here is what we're calling traditional techniques. And this would be buildings that are inspired by, kind of traditions of weaving and stacking and assembling in those kind of methods. And if we go to the next slide, you can see how those traditions are handled in modern buildings, and where oftentimes they're timber frames and they're woven together. They create different spaces for different types of uses. So we call that traditional techniques. In the next slide, we wanted to suggest another approach to working in the valley, which would be drawing on the agrarian traditions. And this would be kind of simple buildings with broad shed roofs, covered outdoor spaces, and kind of picking up on that language of the barns and agrarian type structures that you might have seen in the valley's history over time. And these are different examples of how that type of an architecture is used traditionally and used today for the creation of buildings. And then another interesting thing that we thought about was the fact that the site itself has been shaped and formed in many different ways by the flow of the river, and certainly by a lot of man-made operations for the sand and gravel operations and the shaping and berming of slopes. And we thought there is a kind of architecture that does work with the land, and it kind of merges itself. And Frank, I know you've found some great examples for this.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, we have these samples that are showing how buildings can use the landscape. They can fold and integrate the land right into the building. The goal of these buildings, they're all examples of how the buildings actually become part of the land, using folding materials, layers, so that they become fully integrated with it. Besides earth forms, the next couple of slides, we have the Californio style, which is a style that you're probably familiar with. These type of buildings have decorative gates and doors, thick walls with windows that are both arched and square, rectangular. Real puts an emphasis on outdoor courtyards and covered arcades and verandas and trellises to provide shaded areas for outdoors. And this slide also showed some other elements that you might see: plaster walls or masonry walls that are inspired by adobe brick, some exposed glulam beams and roof systems that usually are dark in color, and some different roofing systems that are either inspired by brick or concrete tile roofs, as well as some stone type walls that you might see from native stone.
Great. So yeah, we would like to do the same thing and put up a poll, and based on those different points of reference, we'd like to get your thoughts on what you think might be an appropriate approach here. And so we had the indigenous kind of inspiration, we had the agrarian inspiration, drawing from the landforms, merging with the land, and then the Californio modern kind of combination. And would like to get everyone's feedback there, and then we'll share the results. All right. Terrific. Thank you all.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Frank. Yeah, now as we conclude today's presentation, and before we begin our Q&A session, I'd like to inform everyone on the next steps of the project. So we will be holding an additional in-person workshop at the end of this month, consisting of the same presentation, but in person and with other interactive opportunities. And we'll also have another pop-up event May 18th. More details to come onto that. Next, the team will be synthesizing the community's feedback and then developing 2 concept designs based on your input and feedback. In addition to the Active Recreation Area 3 park development, we're excited to announce another development. It's the Heritage Staging Area and Trails project. So public engagement for this project will commence summer 2024, so very soon. Stay tuned for more details and opportunities to contribute to this exciting initiative. We also look forward to continuing our collaborative journey towards creating a vibrant and inclusive park that enriches the lives of our community members. So I want to thank everyone for your engagement, and we're excited and honored to help realize our shared vision for this future park. I do also want to mention that if you felt some of the polls were moving a little too quickly, the survey is available online at the QR code at the end of this presentation. But for now, I'm going to pass the next section on to Jessica to begin the Q&A session. Thanks, everyone.
All right, good evening, everybody. It's my pleasure to help guide you through the Q&A portion of our meeting. Hopefully you got a lot of great information about this new recreation space that we're exploring. This is a 46-acre parcel of land within Otay Valley Regional Park, which is a very large piece of land and serves many San Diego County residents. The goals for this project really are just to provide a mix of open space, also preserve land, trails, and a variety of different types of recreational amenities. We're also looking at protecting some environmentally and culturally sensitive areas and to maintain some of those scenic viewpoints that we all love and appreciate today, and encourage some compatible agricultural uses. So thank you so much for all of you who've already been providing some great feedback in the Q&A panes. We definitely appreciate that. Everything is being recorded and noted. And if you have any questions, please continue to use the Q&A pane for that feedback. I'm going to start going through this list of questions that we have not yet answered and sending them to members of our team. The first question that we had in here, there was a question from Emily. And it looks like it's kind of a two-part question. So I wanted to start off by sending it to, I think we'll start with Camille, and then I'm going to kick it over to Crystal. But this is coming from Emily. It says that we're mentioning the Kumeyaay Nation and how how the current 12 federally recognized Kumeyaay bands will be provided consultation for this project. So Camille, can you talk about our outreach to the different stakeholders in the area and to the tribes who are recognized? And then from there, we'll have Crystal kind of jump on and talk about all of the different environmental processes that also take place.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica, and thank you, Emily, for your question. Absolutely. So we've already engaged the Kumeyaay Heritage Preservation Committee before we even presented this. We wanted to make sure that we had their blessing and the history was appropriate in providing Indigenous inspired architecture. So throughout this entire process, whether it's inspiration based off of their history or even down the line an interpretive center within the building, we'll be coordinating very closely with them with ongoing meetings and probably site visits as well. Thank you. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thanks, Camille. And then I'll just jump in on the formal consultation process. So we will be conducting environmental analysis per the California Environmental Quality Act. So as part of that, we'll be doing formal tribal consultation through AB 52. And if you've been part of this through, with the county before on any projects, we work with our planning and development services partners to organize meetings with the various tribes. And then based on the feedback that we get and the level of input that's desired, we'll continue to work with you throughout the process, sharing different aspects of the project, what our mitigation measures are, things like that may be of interest to you. So it will be an ongoing coordination and relationship throughout the life cycle of the project, and really happy to work with you on any input you may have.
Thanks so much, Crystal. Thank you, Camille. We have kind of a related question that's has to do with our environmental processes. And for this, I'd like Juliet to help us answer the question. This is also coming from Emily. The question is, how can invasive removal happen in our protected spaces? So Juliet, can you talk a little bit about biodiversity and what we do every day to kind of protect our native plants from those invasive species that come through?
Sure. So another great question, Emily. So essentially what would happen is any areas that are protected would be protected as open space. And then any sort of restoration or invasive removal would be similarly analyzed, as Crystal was saying, under the California Environmental Quality Act. And we would ensure that there was a plan in place to make sure that we're only removing invasives and non-native species and keeping our native species there and able to thrive in that area.
Right, thank you. And I know from an operational perspective, once we have, our park teams on foot and we have, teams of volunteers, we have very regular, removals that take place. So when we see those invasive species kind of come back through, that is, day-to-day park operations. They go through, they remove those invasive species carefully to protect the native plants and animals that thrive in those areas to ensure their health and their vitality over time. All right, so let's see here. We have a question that's coming through from Melanie. Melanie is asking, how do these design styles align with the adopted OVRP design standards and guidelines? So this is a great question here. Camille, maybe you have some answers to this
Yes,
question.
absolutely. You know what, we are treating the guidelines as guidelines. They were approved back in 2006, so another example of some dated information, which is why we felt it important to bring up other history relevant to the site and get the community's feedback on how they would like that reflected, whether it's the design of the park or the community center building. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, John is asking, how many other active recreation areas are there in this area? And will the development of those areas be similar to this and when? That is a fantastic question. I know there's a lot going on in Otay Valley Regional Park and a lot of proposed potential park areas. And a lot of it is definitely looking out in the future, but maybe we could pull back up that map of Otay Valley Regional Park and kind of where active recreation area 3 is in comparison to everything else. And we can look at some of those future areas. And then maybe Camille, do you want to talk through what kind of the future looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to remind everyone that this is a, multi-jurisdictional regional park effort. So between the county and the cities of San Diego and Chula Vista, we're all contributing and leading different projects at different times. Right now, as I mentioned, the county is obviously leading the active recreation 3 area. You can see that circled over here. Another upcoming project that I can definitively confirm is the heritage staging area and the rest of the Zone A trails, and that's part of the area labeled 9. And so we have existing trails from the 5 to the 805. Those are already existing, but we're missing, official OVRP branded and maintained trails from 805 to Heritage. So that's part of that upcoming project. As far as the other numbers, we've got 4, 5, 6, 8, 11, and 12. And then there's some, I guess, 13, 14, and 15 up by the reservoir. I don't have information to this date, when those projects are coming online, but the point of this concept plan is to be able to provide input on future development in general. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And then since we've got you here, right, and we've got the map in front of us, Alan is asking, where is Trail System A for the future heritage staging development, which is, I guess, suggested for summer 2024?
Yes, absolutely. So the entire park is sectioned off into 3 zones. It's A, B, and C. Section A is from just a little bit west of the 5. You can see where that red spot with the 1 is. So from the 5 all the way to about Heritage Road is Zone A. However, the trails for Zone A from the 5 to 805 are already existing and built. The project that I mentioned at the end of our presentation will be from 805 to Heritage. Those are going to be the new and the rest of Zone A trails. In the future, Zone B trails and Zone C trails, will be slated for another project.
Got it, thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, so looking at some of the specific amenities that were discussed today, I know we had quite a few polls, a lot of ideas. And again, for everybody who's attending tonight's meeting, this is just a chance for us to hear from you. It's just kind of throwing out a lot of different potential recreational amenities that we could add to this park and hearing from you. What do you like? What don't you like? What would you prioritize if you had options? We know that there are some environmental constraints. We know that there is kind of a floodplain in here, and we've got to work around kind of the geography, but there are also still a ton of great opportunities. So knowing what you want to see gives us a chance to look at those available resources and fit as many great recreational amenities into the space as we possibly can. So, thank you for what you've shared so far, and, keep telling us what you're interested in. But we did have some questions about specific types of things that we shared. So I know Emily was mentioning that fields may not be feasible, just considering our water situation here in California. And this might just be a good thing for our operations team to comment on. I know for a lot of our parks where we have sports fields, we have explored different types of options where we have turf. We've got artificial turf in some areas. We also have parks where we use recycled water. So from an operational standpoint, I don't know, Lauren, Lauren's one of our, she manages parks in the area. She actually has Otay Lakes County Park, which is on the far east side of Otay Valley Regional Park. But Lauren, for any of the green spaces that you manage, can you share a little bit about, the water saving practices that your park team oversees?
Sure. Other parks use artificial turf, and in parks that I've managed that don't use artificial turf, we really focus on the management of fields and agriculture to ensure that there is sustainable water use. Like we have a system called CalSense, and it's prevents us from overwatering, and if it's raining, it'll automatically shut off.
Okay. So we've got options. So if it looks like, based on the survey, so this is just day one, right? We had some polls that we had today. We've got some surveys that are going to go live after today. We also have our next public meeting. So based on overall public feedback, if fields come out as a top priority, then I think the team is going to look at, those options and say, okay, well, if the group is really, really interested in this, then resource-wise, does it make sense? And then, of course, we present options back to the public. And we're going to ask, our residents, our local business owners, you guys tell us, is this still something that you want? And then based on public feedback, we'll decide whether or not it's something that we want to move forward with. So thank you, Lauren. That was very helpful. Okay. Let's see here. We have a question from Zach. Zach is asking if there's any potential for a similar development to Colina Park in City Heights that provides youth education through the game of golf. Colina sits on a very hilly 11-acre lot. That is a wonderful question. I'm not sure. That's a question we would need to ask of, I believe, the city of San Diego. And I don't know if we've got a rep who's part of our official group of panelists today to answer that question, but we can record this and bring on a member of the city of San Diego team to help answer it. We definitely work closely with City of San Diego and all of our regional partners. So we can certainly share that with them, and then maybe we'll actually have them present at the next public meeting so we can, talk to them face to face and see if we can get you the response that you're looking for. All right, let's see here. We have a question from Melanie. Melanie is asking if it's possible to adjust the MHPA boundaries to allow for various amenities to better fit the project site. That is a good question. Camille, would you know the answer to that question here? If it's possible to adjust.
I can take that one.
Okay, sure.
So what this is referring to is a planning area in the Multiple Species Conservation Program plan. And just for everybody's awareness, there are different planning documents throughout the county. This particular site happens to be within the planning area for the city of San Diego. So it's not within the county's controlled plan. And so while it could be feasible to amend the MHPA boundary, it would be a very lengthy and difficult process for us to go through, and we would need to work with the city on that. So definitely something that we can look into, but just in all transparency, for the timing that we have available, I'm not sure that it's really feasible for this project.
Thank you, Crystal. All right, Nick has some feedback here. Nick is saying perhaps some smaller soccer courts with artificial surfacing that can be used during the rainy season would be good options. All the grass soccer fields in Chula Vista City Parks tend to close a lot during and after any rain. Great feedback. We've definitely had our rainy season this year, and it looks like we might have even more coming up this weekend, hopefully not for too long. I know we're all looking forward to some more sunshine. Here's a good question regarding the floodplain. Maybe we want to pull back up that slide that had the images of the floodplain, but Emily is asking how will the earth forms that they're looking at in terms of the design types, how will they affect the floodplain that this park is located on? And this would be probably a good question for the design team, but I'll start with Camille maybe.
Yeah, so I think you're maybe talking about the architectural inspiration with the landforms. That would really be that would stay at the hill, that that elevated pad that Jen was talking about. Yep, right there. So that would most likely be there, which is outside, but slightly outside of the 100-year floodplain. So I hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you. Okay. All right. Zach has a question and a comment, and this is a good one. So Zach's saying, an existing homeless population lives near or within this area. How is it addressed in a more holistic manner than just moving them somewhere else? That is a great comment. The County of San Diego takes, that situation very seriously, and I know that we have got staff dedicated to really understanding individual situations and to ensuring that those who are unsheltered have the resources they need to be in safer situations. And so we have staff who are trained to connect people to the proper resources. And we certainly have our own homeless outreach team that works closely with other county staff. But from an operational perspective, Joe, do you want to help respond to this question?
Sure. Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you. You covered it really well. So we do have park rangers on the ground that are dedicated specifically for homeless outreach. And we coordinate with various other departments in the county and also nonprofits as well. And religious organizations to bring the support and resources that we need to move these folks into perhaps shelter situations or get them additional resources to kind of move them out of these locations in a safe manner that would allow them to, have some success, right? And hopefully be able to get back on their feet. So definitely would approach it from an extensive outreach perspective, which would likely require us threading with various partners in the area to make that happen. We do some outreach now as part of normal operations in various areas here in this community. And we'll likely be extending that, as the project moves along through the design process, right? To make sure that we're addressing this properly before we go to construction.
And then Joe, while I have you on here, Zach had kind of a follow-up question to that where Zach was saying that he runs one of the newer retail businesses next to that population and just wants to know how could it be addressed apart from just moving folks to another location. So if he had questions and wanted to talk to somebody, would he just contact the rangers who are stationed on site? Would that be the best contact, or would he contact somebody at the County of San Diego?
Charles is a good resource. So Charles Gelband, who's the region manager for this area, he works closely with Lauren, but he also oversees our department's homeless outreach team and has various kind of connections with different organizations that can assist. So he would be a first point of contact, and then he could get that individual in touch maybe with some other organizations that could also assist, or departments within the county that could assist.
Okay, great. And Charles is, he's one of our region managers. So he oversees a number of parks in kind of the South County region. So I don't believe he was able to join us today, but he'll certainly be present at future meetings, and we'll make sure that his contact information is present on our engagement HQ page. So I put that in here earlier. I think we had the QR code on one of our final pages here in the deck. But we'll make sure that that's present so you guys have a way to get a hold of him directly if you need to. He's a tremendous resource, but he's certainly been very active in all of the work that we've done on that project. Okay, there was a question about the trolley in here. Will connections to the trolley station be encouraged? And will a ranger or other staff be stationed at the site during regular park hours? Wonderful question. That's from Melanie. There are some existing connections to the trolley right now, and I know we plan to improve and encourage some future connections. That will all kind of be coming as the project moves forward. I don't know if we have any more comments on that. Camille, do we have more updates to like future trail connections that you'd want to share?
So currently there's currently a trail. You can kind of see it off along Hollister in the dark green, and then there's a little bit existing on the current site. That actually leads you from the park and ride area of the Palm Avenue trolley station. So you know, we will be making sure that we maintain that trail connection. And I think even across Hollister, it connects to the South Bay Bikeway. So it's, you know, a big goal of ours is to ultimately connect a lot of these trails and make a regional trail map.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, and then we have just another bit of feedback for, you know, preferred amenities. Nick says, I vote for wetlands habitat restoration with biking and hiking trails and benches at scenic overlooks and all floodplain and sensitive habitats, with a community garden or a few soccer fields in the upper pad along Palm Avenue. Thank you. Fantastic feedback that is noted and has been added to our notes for today's meeting. So we appreciate that, Nick. And then Melanie has a question. She's asking, can bioretention features such as underground vaults be feasible underneath some of the features that we discussed today? That's a really good question. Looking at some of the design or some of, you know, the different types of recreational amenities, is that feasible? Camille?
Yeah, you know what? I think that would require a more in-depth geotechnical and environmental analysis to see if that's something we could even if we could even dig there. And you know, there could be cultural resources that would not allow that. So I think as we get more past concept design and, you know, deeper into construction documents, that's certainly something we could look into.
Okay, great. Thank you. So it looks like I got through most of the questions. I'll hold on here just a second in case there's more that come through. But again, this is just today is an exploratory meeting. We just wanted to share with you that we have this new great park space, 46 acres. We are excited to be able to open it up for, you know, new opportunities. You know, again, there's a couple of constraints here, but outside of that, we are just so excited to be able to open up some new stuff for you. So please share your feedback. Here's a QR code, also the link if you want to click on there. When you go to this website, there's a lot of different ways that you can get involved. You can subscribe for updates. You can contact us directly. There's links to our upcoming public meetings. We'll have flyers on here. There's actually an interactive map, so you can click on the map and actually plug in there the types of different you know, playthings that you'd want to put on to add to the park. But we're pulling in all of these different types of ideas that you're sharing with us, gathering all this community feedback so we have a real good diversity of options that we can pull together and put together a park that truly is a reflection of the local community. We're focusing a lot on accessibility. We want to make sure that we're fully inclusive of all of the folks who live in the area and use this public space. We have a big focus on safety and also environmental and cultural impacts. So all of that is being taken into consideration. But again, we really appreciate your feedback and your participation. Come to the next meeting if you want to get to know the team face to face and also some of the other people who just are taking part in this project. But with that, I don't see anything else in here. So please, you know, visit that link, get involved, and it's been my pleasure to serve you here on the Q&A. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jessica. I just want to echo what she said. This QR code and or the link shown here is a pretty vital resource to all public engagement efforts for this project. You can also reach me as the park project manager at the email on the screen. I can't thank everyone enough, the panelists who, you know, helped put this presentation together and answered questions, but most importantly, everyone who came out today to participate. we're so excited to, as a team, to be bringing this project forward and to be able to help provide you guys, this community, a really amazing and much needed asset. So can't thank you enough. I think with that, I think we can end the meeting. I want to thank everyone again and hope everyone has a good week.